5,
2,
6,
1.
7.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host for today, but um, Tammy decided to treat us with the movie for today. So, Tammy, one thing that I wanted to ask is why did you choose this particular film of all films, and just what film is
We're gonna be doing Love Bug, or otherwise people know him as Herbie.
it?
I chose him because we've been kind of like on a car theme, and I thought he'd be a fun little one to add into the car theme because it's a fun movie, and for the most part, and it'd be nice to add to the theme that were on.
Okay. So, The Love Bug is directed by Robert Stevenson. It was filmed in 1968, and it stars Dean Jones, Buddy Hackett, along with Michelle Lee, among another Disney original actor that we know from several films. At least I know from several films. David Tomlinson, who played in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks as well as Mrs. Poppins.
I love Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't know his name, and I wasn't wasn't sure where I knew him from, but I knew he looked familiar.
And Michelle Lee got very, very known after being on the run of Knots Landing.
I'd never seen that, but she does look familiar from something else. So
she's been in a lot of other movies, but that was a long running, what you would
oh,
call
I know what it was.
I
remember it being on, and I just never watched it.
Well, my mother watched
it. It wasn't something my mother made me watch, so I didn't watch it either.
My mom watched all the nighttime soap operas, Dallas, Falcon Crest, Knots Landing, all
my mother watched the daytime ones, so I was forced to watch those. Yeah, I named my daughter after 2 different girls in General Hospital, so but I thought the names were really pretty, so.
Well, this is something that I didn't know until I actually looked it up today. Evidently, it's based on a 1961 book called Car Boy Girl by Gordon Buford. So that's kind of interesting.
I'm glad they changed the name. It does not roll off the tongue like Love Bug does.
But let me just say what IMDb says about the film, and then we'll go into our first impressions here. So, down on his luck, race car driver Jim Douglas teams up with a little VW bug that has a mind of its own, and realizing Herbie's worth until a sneaky rival plots to steal him. So, first impressions, starting with Boris. Why don't you tell us? Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was the first time, and I have to say it was an interesting movie. I would kind of say it's maybe a child-friendly version of Christine. Okay, I'm kidding. It's not like that. But yeah,
Herbie could
for
get very
obvious.
mean.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said Herbie could get very mean.
Yeah, look what he did to that Lamborghini.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh yeah. Well, for obvious reasons, it did remind me of Christine, but yeah, it's not really that kind of movie.
He's not as bad, but yeah, he definitely he definitely has some genes in there.
His antics are cuter.
Yes, a lot cuter, and the people that he tries to hurt deserve it.
Yeah.
He's not as malicious.
No.
No, but he is a jealous He
It,
is a
it,
jealous automotive machine.
it's weird though. You notice they call this one Herbie a male name, not a female. As I was saying before, they're always females, but this one is not.
Ha, ha. Yeah, good point.
So did you like it for it?
Yes, yes, it was fun. It started with some good spoonhouse, and it had a lot of funny moments. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Going over to Krol. Is this a first time
No,
watch for you?
no. I can't tell you exactly when I watched it. I was a kid, a young kid, and I watched the movie. I've seen them all, and absolutely love them. And I loved them as a kid. I haven't seen them probably since I was a kid. Always had a great nostalgia for them. I always remembered watching them and how much I loved them. It was one of those childhood movies that you just remember, you know. And then watching it now, I was actually going, "Oh yeah, Bunny Hatchet is in this movie," which I had forgotten. 'Cause, I mean, I probably know who he was as a kid, and when by the time I knew who he was, kind of forgot he was in it or whatever. But yeah, he was a big comedian at the time, so um, he's pretty funny. But it wasn't just him that was funny, you know, the car and everything. I just it's just such a classic movie. Really, like I said, wholesome Disney type movie. You know, really fun. Um, you know, how to say, you know, it's just great film. There's action, romance, comedy. You know, got the hero and the bad guy. You know, Herbie the hero.
Uh, the
Alrighty.
bad guy was a pain in the ass.
Oh, he was. He's been in a ton of movies. Um, I've seen, and he was in. He was in Mary Poppins as the banker, and no, the fox. Yeah, yeah, he's been in a ton of movies.
Oh yeah. He was in a lot of in a string of Disney films, and I always got a kick out of him.
He likes to play the bad guy, and he's good at it. He's not the bad guy that you really want to kill, but you want to see him lose. Yeah, you know, like there's some bad guys you just want to kill. You know, like they're just so horrible, or you want to see them die. You don't want to see him die. You just want to see him get his, which you know he does. So
Yeah.
every time Herbie nailed him with oil, I fucking laughed. My ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a dog pissing on him. I guess
Except
it
better.
was
Except
alluding
better
to
taking it apart.
that.
So
I'd much rather have Herbie than any dog.
Definitely.
was this a first time watch for you?
No, I don't remember how old I was when I saw it with my great grandma. The funny thing is, you know, I was young enough to kind of look at cars differently after I saw the movie. And I remember I was old enough at least to understand the workings of a car and everything. And my mom had this Mustang that she had. She didn't like Ford vehicles. She bought this as a get around car because she was restoring the Grand Prix, which is now my Grand Prix at the time.
Mustangs
So
are awesome, though.
you can't be restoring it and be driving it. So she bought this Mustang as a get around car, and she never had a nice thing to say about it. She always said how much she hated it, and one day it wouldn't start. And I told her because she was mean to it. And she got all upset and said, "If you think you can do better, go ahead." And I went out there and I was like, "Oh, come on, you got to start. Mom's got to go to work. You got to start." And it started. She was so mad at me. And now that I'm older, I know what happened. I could smell the gas when I was out there. Now I understand more. She flooded it. Okay, trying to start it.
uh,
Okay, but at the time, I kept telling her it was because she was mean to it, and that's why it wouldn't work for her.
That's just absolutely hilarious that what she did was, technically she messed it up with the gas, but obviously she didn't know she did, and you didn't know she did, but you just used it to say that, and then you got it to work, so it's kind of funny.
And the thing is, she should have known what she did anyways because she worked on cars,
Yeah. I mean, most average person would probably know not to flood your engine. So for someone to work on cars, they definitely should know not to flood your engine.
Okay, that reminds me of an anecdote from my childhood. If you are interested in hearing, it's not actually about cars, but this reminded me of it. So if you're interested in hearing,
Sure, why not? We're probably going to go all
okay,
over with this one, anyways.
yeah. So I don't know, maybe 8 years old or so, not sure exactly. And I was at my place with two friends, and we were playing a computer game. And the computer suddenly froze. We didn't know what was going on. And among the three of us, I was the one who knew the most about computers. Like those two didn't know as much as I did. And then this one guy started to type a Croatian curse phrase on the keyboard, like he was trying to swear at the computer, thinking it would get it to start working. And while he was typing that phrase, I told him that's not going to work. And he was like, yes, it will. And when he finished typing the curse phrase, it was a Croatian one. You wouldn't understand it anyway. Just when he finished typing it, the goddamn thing actually started working again. Yeah. So it kind of turned out he proved me wrong, although of course it was a coincidence, but still it was hilarious.
Well, ever since that movie, it sounds kind of weird. Even now, I don't believe in being mean to vehicles. Okay, I don't think you should walk up and kick it or yell at it or treat it badly.
Well, no, because
You never
You
know
know.
when they turn into a robot and kick your ass.
you can't get mad at
Oh yeah, imagine.
I believe in being nice to your vehicles and they'll be nice to you.
But in any case,
Yeah.
the film begins at a demolition derby, which did anyone realize what the name of that demolition derby was called or anything, Tammy?
I don't remember what it was called. No, because they throughout the movie they were at so many different racetracks and things like that, trying to keep track of all of them.
Okay.
I know it
Well,
reminded me of one that we still have here in Wisconsin, but
what is a demolition derby?
well, okay, they were doing more. They were doing more of a what at the raceway because they were doing the figure eight while they were running. And it was still a demolition derby, but it wasn't the derby that I was used to going to. The derby that I was used to going to is the cars would line up. You'd have like six cars and then like six cars, and they'd be facing back ends to each other. And when the flag went down, everybody would gun it. And you only went in reverse for the whole demolition derby. You you hit people, and the last car running and moving was the
So
winner.
is it like bumper cars a little bit?
Kind of, but you only go in reverse.
And you don't have bumpers.
and you're supposed to try not to hit the driver's door. It doesn't always work that way, but you're supposed to try not to. You know, it's considered bad sportsmanship if you go right to the driver's door. You know, now the one that they were doing at the beginning was a type of a demolition derby because they were doing like a figure eight race, and you know, as they would come through, people would get hit as they would come through the eighth. They would hit each people would get hit. It was a type of a derby, but it's more done on a raceway. It's not the one that I was used to.
I actually had a car that I sold to someone that entered it into a demolition derby. My Ford Fairmont, Fairlane Fairmont.
Good place for it.
Yeah, I heard it did really well. I was proud that it did well. You know, it was my first car, and
Well,
so
most Fords should end up there.
it was just a fucking great car, jackass. Mustang.
The only Ford
I will
that
completely
I give any credit to is the Mustang.
I was supposed to say
the rest of them-
I completely disagree with that. The Mustang is fucking awesome. And Ford Taurus is not a bad car either.
The only credit that I give to Ford is the Mustang. The rest of them, poof.
No. Ford Taurus is good too because I'm a Taurus. So
Yeah, you fucked over rebuilt Dodge.
no, found on road dead.
Well, my friend is a Ford fan, and he says first on race day.
Yeah, maybe a Mustang. Maybe.
I did not want to offend KG the last time we were on and talking about cars, but you know what Pontiac stands for, right? Poor old nigger thinks it's a Cadillac.
What is it?
Poor old nigger thinks it's a Pontiac, but
Cadillac.
ladies and thinks it's a Cadillac. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't mean to be racist at any given point in time. It's just an acronym.
Right. That's why I didn't say it when KG was on because I didn't want to be offensive.
But in any case, we are.
Besides, it's more fun to make fun of the Fords.
We are introduced to Jim Douglas, who is a racer. What do we think about Jim Douglas as a character?
He grows up.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, at first he's just kind of, you know, well, I mean, he's down on his luck. You feel bad for him. Then he gets all cocky and just kind of becomes an ass, you know. And you know, I mean, I get why he thinks it's him winning the races and not a car. I mean, first of all, it's hard to believe that a car would be able to do all that. But except for the fact that when the car started taking control and him and the girl, neither one could take control of it. You kind of see there must be something different about this car, and the fact that he thought he tweaked it to make it better was just kind of ridiculous. Like, if this car is like magical or whatever, like whatever you're gonna do is not gonna work. You know?
Well, my first impression of him was that
What?
he was a little bit cocky. It was down on his luck, but all that was on his mind was cars. That was it. And it's like, as much as I like cars and I like the races, I like my Grand Prix, that's not the only thing on my mind. And that was all that was on his mind was cars, and his racing.
I know we haven't gotten to any of that part, but I just gotta say I love that fucking line. Oh baby, and the girl's just like plays with her hair, and then he just looks faster and goes to the car. Just like looks at her like, okay. She thought he was talking to her.
Well, I could see that happening. Dave could be with me, and I could see something that caught my eye, and I could just go right past him too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see a dog and still do that. No.
No, if David was with me and a 72 Chevelle pulled up, I would, yeah, David wouldn't be there anymore. The 72 Chevelle would be there.
You're trading up.
Well, in any case, Jim Douglas is on the look. Evidently, he's on the lookout for a new car because the last one that he may or may not have had evidently was crashed, and he was looking for the next car for the next race. And I guess he's kind of known in the circuit to be kind of a second-rate driver, where he just is known to crash. And
actual race car this time.
yeah, he's looking for an actual race car this time, and he ends up walking. He ends up going to his buddy, who was played by Buddy Hackett, and he doesn't have anything for him, so he ends up going to Thorndike. He wanders by a window and he notices a pair of legs.
He did notice the girl first because he hadn't seen the car yet, but he did notice the girl.
Yeah, he noticed the girl first, and what do we think about the young lady here?
She had nice legs.
Michelle Lee, I've always thought, I got, basically.
And her name is Carol Bennett in here.
Got stuck watching Knots Landing with my mother. But, I always thought she was a very good actress. And I thought she was pretty. Yeah, I just, I've enjoyed seeing her in other things. So I thought she did very well, and she's definitely a lot younger in this than when when I first remembered seeing her and things. So it's nice to see her back when she was, pretty young in this,
Indeed.
Anybody else?
Oh yeah, well, like I said, she had great legs, but yeah, she was very pretty. She did a good job. She had nice facial expressions as well, and you could tell what she was thinking. The way she moved and stuff, like with the baby thing, and
comebacks.
So the only thing I thought was really goofy, that both of them did, was the way they were holding on to the wheel and like trying to drive when Harvey was driving and stuff. It was just like, it's not gonna work. Like, give up. Like, I just don't know. It just seemed kind of silly. I don't know. Obviously the movie's silly, but it's just kind of silly in like a bad way. Not in a good way. Where the other rest of the movie is silly in a good way.
Well, good point.
And I thought that Michelle Lee was a good-looking woman. She, from the '60s, I'm surprised. Well, knowing that this is a Disney film, they weren't going to show her like some of the swinging '60s movies that I'm kind of used to, where that they show women a little bit more scantily clad or things like that. So this is like the late '60s. So I thought that she had more of like a Breakfast at Tiffany's kind of a look.
She was a prim and proper.
Yeah, prim and proper. Yeah, I would have to say that. And she was a good-looking woman. So it's not that she wasn't. So
she kept trying to be very sophisticated through the whole movie, even though he wore on that sophistication.
Yes. But even right from the beginning, she looked at him, like he looked at her, and then, you could tell, like when he said baby, and she was like, she was blushing, she was like, this good looking guy is into me, and she liked right from the beginning, and then even when she found out he was poor and broke, she still thought he was something, it didn't bother her, which I thought was great. I remember thinking that when I saw it again last night, that even though she knows he's broke, that it didn't bother her at all. She was still down to earth about him. He seems like a decent guy. I mean,
Huh.
she was into him. So
A
Well, in any
good point.
case,
Yeah.
he comes into Thorndyke's car shop, or it's
Showroom.
a sales floor for
Mm.
a display room, and he
Showroom.
sees this. Yeah, it's a showroom, which displays like this year's models of cars that are in, and he zeroes in on a Lamborghini that really sparks his interest. But when Thorndyke, David Tomlin, comes up and offers him a drink, he's looking for a $75 to $80 car, and that's when he's like, "Goodbye, see you." I'm not going to deal with a customer that's only ever able to like pay that amount.
well, don't forget
Yeah.
the drink. He offers him a fancy, expensive drink, and then he found out he doesn't have any money. He took the drink back and put it back in the bottle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's when we see the first time that Herbie shows up. He just appears, and he appears in the room, and at first Thorndyke's like, "Get this thing off my floor! What is it doing here?" And he kicks it, and he's like, "What are you doing to a perfectly good machinery?" Um, and I guess what happens is that eventually Herbie follows him home, and he gets in trouble by I guess a neighbor or a cop the next morning, because evidently it's parked itself, um,
They think
in
he
the
stole it.
vicinity. Yeah, like he stole it, and so when he gets taken back to Thorndyke, he really lets Thorndyke have it. I know what kind of shuckster you are. You're trying to get me to buy this vehicle. I'm not having any of it.
Now
What do y'all?
he agreed to it, but he was flipping out about it, and it was it's just funny because he blamed Thorndyke. The Thorndyke did it as a ploy to get him to buy it, and Thorndyke really believes that he stole it, and it was just Herbie did it himself.
I think this is one one of the first times that Herbie shows his dislike for Thorndyke at the moment, and basically pees oil on him.
Yes. Um, and that becomes kind of an antic that is shown throughout the film, that Herbie doesn't even like him.
Yes, every chance,
And
every time Thorndyke gets by him and he gets a chance, he basically pees oil on him.
and I guess ultimately, he takes the car out, and he wants to take it somewhere, and it doesn't take him there. In fact, it takes him right back straight to Thorndyke and tries to run him over. And
Yeah,
he's like, "All right."
he tried to get on the freeway, and Herbie got scared. So Herbie didn't want to get on the freeway, and so Herbie took took over. He did not want to get on the freeway with all them cars. He got scared.
So he took him back to Thorndike, almost like ran him over, and he's basically, all right, I want my money back. You can have this car. It won't take me where I want to go. It's got a mind of its own. And Carol, she has a mind to say, well, I feel responsible for the car, so why don't you let me drive it and see what happens? And so she does, and ultimately Herbie does take over, locks her in the car. There's this moment where and let's not forget that she was supposed to have dinner with Mr. Thorndike, which is technically like a date that he was going to take her out on to romance her or some shit.
Herbie makes sure that doesn't happen.
Herbie makes sure that does not happen. So they end up getting a couple of burgers, and she tries to say, "Help! I'm stuck.
I'm trapped. We're all trapped, man. We're all trapped." the two stars.
Oh, not to mention the fact that these two hipsters they end up trying to race Herbie, and
those ones.
Yeah, and they were impressed with Herbie by the time he got up to the next light.
They weren't hipsters.
They were hippies.
They were hippies. No, I wouldn't say they were hippies either. They were definitely they were into the music scene and everything.
I consider them hippies because of the way they were talking, and she
right,
was,
but they weren't really hippies though. If you know anything about hippies, they weren't hippies.
Okay. If you want to say that,
I do, because I did.
We both believe that they were hippies.
While they're on this adventure with Herbie, and he's taking them everywhere.
They look clean. They look like they showered with regular water and
no, they didn't. Dude's hair was like long as Cousin It. The fuck?
Who cares if he has long hair?
Face.
Who cares? Just because you don't have any hair doesn't mean other people can have long hair.
Hey, to me, in the '60s, if you had long hair, you were a hippie.
Well, you're wrong. Dead wrong.
And if you talked like that, you were a hippie. So,
anyways, they're in the car. But they get in, and they both get mad and get out of the car, and the policeman comes up to talk to them because the car is following them. Nobody's driving the car. The car is just following them. And he's asking him all kinds of questions. He still keeps looking at the car. And he's like, okay, well, you should really be walking around here at night and everything. And the cop goes on his way while he's still looking at the car.
And well, it's funny because they didn't realize the car was following them. He says, "That your car?" And he turns around and looks. And he kind of like was surprised, like, how the hell did the car get here? We left it back up there.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And of course, they got a couple of burgers, and for some reason, I kind of like the waitress because he was like, "Can you help her out of the vehicle?" And she's like, "Hey, honey, I serve food here. I don't. I'm not that kind of woman, that kind of thing." So
she looked like she should have been a barmaid at a stingy, at a dark, danky bar or something. Like she didn't look like one of those waitresses they have that come to your cars that usually are young, good-looking girls.
No, definitely not. which made it all the more funnier just a little bit because she was this cranky like lady taking orders, So
with a pound of makeup on her.
yeah, pound of makeup. But in any case, I guess he then puts Herbie into a race, and he wins, if I remember correctly. And
yeah?
that's when Thorndike starts to, really like want the car.
Wants the car back, yeah.
And so he
And his
does
sidekick,
offer him.
at his house. You got to remember. You got to talk about him because he realizes what Herbie is like almost.
Oh,
right
you mean
away.
Tennessee?
He talks to
Yeah.
him like right away, and he knows
Yeah.
there's something special.
Yep, and tells him to behave. He can find a good home there to make it seem like he's a normal car.
Oh yeah, there is this moment where they wake up and the dogs are all in the car, and he's running around with them in the car, and he's like, hey, get out of there! Hey, behave, Herbie. You want to have this be your home, don't you? So,
You say you want a nice home.
yep.
You can have a nice
So-
home here. You behave.
But he really liked Herbie from the beginning, and he's the one that came up with the name Herbie for him.
Yep,
Herb
because
was
up until a certain point, he didn't have a name.
So he said
Oh,
that
he
his
did.
grandfather's name was Herb or something like that, and for some reason the car reminded him of it. That's why he decided to call him Herbie. But he took a very big liking to Herbie, like right away. He wanted to take care of him. He wanted to keep him, He knew there was something special about him.
Oh yeah, and I think Herbie fit him. It was just it just seemed to fit at that moment, and so he takes him out to the races, and then we get the montage of races between him and Thorndike, and it seems like they are like kind of back and back. It's like he wins one and he wins one, and that kind of thing. And finally, Thorndike gets it in his mind to convince or try to convince Carol to get closer to the driver, Jim, which she already has plans to do so. And while they're out on a date, he goes over to the shop where I guess Tennessee ends up making him a home brew of Irish coffee from his mother's recipe. Which, while they are drinking, he ends up pouring some Irish coffee down into Herbie, which kind of
Which I don't understand why Herbie never did anything to stop him. Like, was he sleeping or something? Like he never did anything. Like he just let him do it. I didn't get.
Oh, he did. That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, why
yeah,
didn't Herbie do anything to stop him?
Herbie should have been aware.
Yeah,
Yes.
the only thing I can think of is Herbie was sleeping.
Well, yeah, he was in the shop. For all intents and purposes, he could have been napping, and he probably didn't even realize it. But the next day at the races, Herbie starts to act up. His wheels start to go awry, and he ends up on the side. And then when he finally shows up at the last race, or the finish line, he spews out some Irish coffee, which is exactly what Tennessee figured out that it was that somehow Thorndyke had gotten his hands on the car.
Well, he
But
spit out the whipped cream, but he realized what it was, and he
Yep.
spit
Yeah,
out
but
the
he
cream.
spit it out all over Thorndyke, which he deserved.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a kind of a spoodo.
It was definitely funny, and I loved
Yeah.
how they showed Herbie like he was you could tell he basically was drunk, and I love when his tires went kind of all flat and it just looked horrible. It was great. It was great the way they did that. It really made him look like
it made it look like Herbie was like all kinds of rubber, hey?
yeah,
Yeah.
just all kinds of drunk and just messed up and it was
If a
great.
car could look drunk, that's how it would look.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
in that case, it was after that Jim ends up really really mad at Herbie, not really realizing that it wasn't his fault, you know,
But still
and
not realizing what Herbie really is yet.
correct.
Yeah, that too.
So as soon as Thorndyke offers him some money, he's like, you know what? Fine, I could use the money towards the car, and he makes the decision before he talks to anyone else, and everyone else is actually kind of disappointed in him. In fact, they're kind of downright angry with him.
Well, that's because he came home with their red Lamborghini.
Oh, indeed.
He came home with that red
Yeah.
Lamborghini, and they all started saying that's not right. Look what you're doing to Herbie, and they all were inside. And that's when he got the phone call from Thorndyke offering the money for the car for Herbie, and he
And at
decides
first
to
it
take
was
the money.
And at first, it was Tennessee banging some shit in the other room, and then they heard something else that was banging,
And Tennessee
they
was down
realized
there.
it was Tennessee. So they went outside, and sure enough, Herbie was
Was
crunching that
bashing
red
the
Lamborghini.
Oh yeah, spoodo.
and then he took a shovel and he was gonna start smashing Herbie, and they're like no. He's like, look what you just saying. You just won races with him. Like why would you do that? And he stops, but unfortunately, he's already hurt Herbie's feelings really bad
Oh,
at
Yep.
this point.
yeah.
So Herbie runs away, and he's like, "Well, now well, Tennessee is like, now you went and did it. Now she's gone. Now he's gone. Now, and well, you got a lot ahead of you. Well, good luck." So he goes off, runs towards it, and Thorndyke, on the other hand, is actually now that Herbie is on the run, he's like calls like his dudes and be like, okay, be on the lookout for this car, and we got to get to that car before he does. Well, he does get his men do get to the car before he does, and Herbie runs out on them. But he continues to run all the way to a bridge, which that is about when Jim ends up like seeing him like following like where he was,
And he
and
keeps beeping this really sad beep.
Yep.
His horn is a really sad beep.
yep, and he
Yep.
while he was
Yeah,
running, he crashed into a Chinese joint, which
spoodo.
ultimately gets the owner of this Chinese joint looking for this sad beep, because that's all that he remembers hearing of this car.
Oh yeah. That reminds me, Krol, did that sound make you think of a certain other sound?
No.
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 I thought you would definitely be reminded of R2D2.
Okay, I see it now, but no, I wasn't then.
I
Well,
wasn't
that's
either.
surprising since you are the biggest Star Wars fan among us.
I'm a Star Wars super fan.
I wasn't thinking about that, but maybe a little bit. It sounds like
Now that I think
R2D2,
about it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Now that I think
but
about it, too, yeah.
I didn't connect the two. That's for sure.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't. I don't think it sounded enough like R2 to put it together, but it sounded. I guess it did sound a little bit like R2, but yeah, not quite enough.
In
Yeah,
any
well,
case, Herbie's gonna jump off the bridge.
Yeah.
And so he basically goes up to him like, Herbie, no, and then he somehow gets in front of the car and he's like, Herbie, I need some help here, and Herbie ends up saving his life.
Yep. And then the cop said, "The car just saved his life." What are you saying?
In any case,
Technically, Jim saved. They saved each other's life, but it was Jim was doing that to save Herbie, and
I
kind of
guess
fell.
Herbie is then taken to an impound lot where I guess the Chinese dude who we learn is a Mr. Wu. He is
Woohoo!
checking all the horns on the car, and he comes to Herbie, hears the horn, is like, "That's it."
Actually, he started to walk past the car.
Yeah.
And his worker or whatever beat the horn, and he turned back and he looked. He goes, "That's it," like he wasn't even thinking it would be her. He thought it was one of these big cars, and so he like just kind of was walking just past Herbie, because Herbie really fucked up his shop, so he expected it to be a big vehicle.
But he goes over and he writes down a specific number, which evidently Jim can't pay. And I guess that's when Tennessee speaks up. And
he speaks Chinese.
So he goes over and starts to speak Chinese because he had evidently taught English to Chinese Chinese children up in the mountain.
You taught English? That was a great line.
It did.
He can barely speak it himself.
He ultimately basically tells him, "Hey, that's Herbie that you've seen in the papers. Oh yeah, he's a race car, and he's like, well, you know what? How about you buy the car? But then I go and win this race for El Dorado, and then you can sell it back to me for $1. And that's when he's like,
he can keep all the winnings.
Now you speak in my language.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was great when he suddenly spoke English.
Yeah.
And you end up finding out that he's not. At first, he seems like he's like a jerk, but you find out he's not. He's actually a nice guy. You end up. I really like the character. Although
I gotta say, whatever they caked on his hair, and that like shit doesn't move.
Well, that's the way they did a lot of Orientals that way in the movies. It was just kind of a typecasting thing.
Yeah,
that they did.
But in any case, so he gets out, gets and goes to El Dorado, and Thorndike is definitely up to his usual antics because not only did he ultimately do something to their wheel, but he also did something to their spare wheel as well.
Yeah. Put water in
Yeah,
the gas.
And they put,
poured
made the
water in the
pizza.
gas tank and poured water in the extra gas they had, the little gas can they had.
although I did
Yeah,
like the fact that when they were out of gas, evidently Mr. Wu actually sent like a group of warrior Orientals to pick up the car and take it and gas it up. And meanwhile, while Thorndyke was gassing up in his car, they were going slow as fuck. Whereas they brought the car in and you saw the numbers going faster.
Flying like crazy. I laughed about that too.
But and then of course there's the point in time when the car started to split apart.
Well, that's way far. You missed all the little antics on the road.
Yeah, there were a lot of antics on the road, like the fact that they painted the sign differently so that they would go one way and he would go another. So
Yeah,
they
so
Which
they're
ended up in a mine.
all the race cars were driving into a mine, and fortunately for Herbie, he was small enough to fit in the elevator, and they use that as an advantage. So don't know what happened with the rest of the cars, but
And then he came down the hill and got in front of Thorn, and he got all mad.
yeah, they were sitting there. They were sitting there drinking their champagne, and then all of a sudden he looks up and sees the car coming down the hill.
Well, and doesn't Thorndyke somehow get in Herbie's front trunk or whatever?
Yes,
And
he
then,
was. They were on the. He was on the side. I don't know exactly what he was doing. I looked away for a second, and then he was like bent over, and Harvey like drove by and just like grabbed him in the trunk, and like they didn't even know.
They were trying to put a part of a tree in the roadway to block the roadway.
Oh, is that what it was?
And Herbie came up and he bumped the tree hard enough to make him fly forward.
Yeah,
And then
he
that's
fell
how
in
he got up.
he fell in the car, and they didn't even know he was there until he started yelling, and they're like,
well,
he's like, "Oh, that's coming from
they
the engine."
opened
You're
up
like,
the
"Yeah,
glove
but the engine's on the
compartment, and
back."
there his face was screaming at them.
Oh,
I love how they pull him out, and he's like, he can't even move, and then they're walking him over to the tree, and he's like falls over, his head's against the tree and stuff.
Yeah, he's still all crunched, like he can't get up.
Yep, hilarious.
That was brilliant. For some
Spudow!
reason, that moment.
Spudow
Well,
moment.
Spudow too, yeah. But I was going to say, for some reason, it made me think of a certain scene from Joe Sherlock's son Noggins. You, they will remember that, probably. Not sure if you, Krol, and you,
I've
Tammy,
never
have
seen it.
seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I
Okay,
think I
then.
remember seeing it.
I'm sorry, Dave, what did you say?
I said I think I remember seeing it.
Yeah, so this reminded me of something that happened near the end of the movie. Now I won't say what it was, since Krol and Tammy didn't see it, and maybe at some point they might want to. So I won't say what it is, but Dave probably knows what I'm referring to.
I think I know what you're referring to, but in any case, so after that, then they're on the road, and they start to realize that there are cracks forming inside the vehicle, and Tennessee, he's got his trusty handy flame thing to try to like
Good thing
like
he had it on him, huh?
weld the car back
Yeah.
together, but then he realizes that the car has completely separated. And then not only does it separate, it races against the front half, as well as
It beats the front
Thorndyke's
half.
car. And As it happens, the ass end actually wins the first.
We got car number 53 in first place and third place.
And that is pretty much the at least the main part of the film. But then ultimately, I guess we see that Mr. Wu. Actually, we forgot to mention that there was a moment where they were thinking of completely giving up. This was like the night before the second half of the race, because apparently Mr. Wu had wagered that
well, they were giving up because Herbie was he didn't want to do any more damage to Herbie because Herbie was already looking like he'd been through enough, and he actually had grown to care for the car, and he had given up. He said, it's not my car, but I think we should give up. And he said, there's an old saying, when you reach the last page, you should close the book. So basically, he's agreeing that they should end it, but they didn't know about the bet, like you said, and then that's when Thorndike shows up and they find out about the bet.
Yep, and I guess words were said, and that's when Herbie suddenly defended Jim because he was defending it. And
well, you said words were said. Jim attacks Thorndike, and then Thorndike's goons grab him, and he punches Jim and hurts his own hand. But they're basically ganging up on him. That's when Herbie came to and started chasing Thorndike and
yep.
And Thorndike ends up jumping over a fence to get away from Herbie, and Herbie was still going to keep going, and they grabbed him and was holding him back and say, "No, Herbie, no, just let him go."
That's when they decided, hey, we're still in the race. So, because of them actually winning the race, that we saw that Thorndike and his fellow employee were now grease monkeys for the Chinese dude who now owns the car
dealership.
Yep, the car dealership.
Yeah,
and they have a little bit of fun spraying each other with oil.
Yeah, that was great.
Just a little bit.
That was great. He's like, he's basically saying you're not the kind of person to get revenge, right? And then he's like splashing before you even finish saying it, and he's like, "There's your answer." And then that was a funny moment. That was definitely. I'm sure the actors had a lot of fun with that. That moment, it was really, really funny.
I guess Jim Douglas and Carol are about to go on their honeymoon, and they're being asked, "So where are you guys going to go?" We don't know. Herbie hasn't told us yet.
You see Herbie driving off with them in the back seat.
So that, in all essence, is the love bug, ladies and gentlemen. At least as far as anything goes. What did y'all think about production?
Definitely a great first time. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like I said, the way they made Harvey look when he was drunk was phenomenal. Like I said, the only complaint really was just kind of the scene and where they were holding the wheel. Even when he was just kind of driving it, I don't know, it just didn't look right. Something about it just seemed off. But that's just a minor thing. But everything else was pretty great, and I don't know how accurate everything was, but it looked pretty great. I enjoyed it, and Herbie looked phenomenal when he was like drunk or whatever. That was probably one of the best scenes. Just the way he looked. he's he's like all over the road like a ghost person would be, and then he's like completely like stumbling, but a car, so it's like they had to show like the car's like almost flat, and yeah, it was definitely really fun scenes and done really well. I mean, it's Disney, so I mean, even then Disney was Disney and had the money to make sure they had the best the best productions. So
Well, this is when I thought that Disney was still Disney. Honestly, this was when I feel like I had more respect for them as a company. So
Oh,
I enjoy these years
definitely.
with Disney, at least up until a certain point. So I remember this movie. I'm not sure. I think this is like my third or fourth time seeing The Love Bug.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember seeing it in bits and pieces as a kid. I saw it fully with Tammy when she picked her copy up, and then I think I've watched it at least one time since. So um, I know that this has been a film that was like in my childhood. I mean, I remember films like The Shaggy Dog and The Absent-Minded Professor and The Son of Flubber and films of that nature. These were funky films. I mean, even Kurt Russell was in quite a few Disney films that were kind of funky.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
uh, like The Strongest Man in the World and The Computer on Tennis Shoes.
I love the computer on finishes.
But in that line of things, and when uh, uh, I love the fact that they made the car more human. I mean, as far as the production for me, I thought it was great. I mean, I didn't really see that much of a flaw, unless Tammy did they do the squealing on gravel at any given point in time?
Not that I know. But I thought the production was really good too. I mean, for its time, all the things that they made that little car do, you know, I thought that was just great. They didn't have the technology and stuff that we do nowadays. So this was all somebody's ingenuity in their mind to make how they could make the car do these things.
Yeah,
It wasn't done on a computer or anything. They actually had to make things happen to do
yeah,
it. So I thought it was really good.
yeah. They did a great job. Phenomenal.
What about you, Boris? What did you think about the production of this film? Did you were you impressed with the production?
Yeah, I also thought it was pretty good, but yeah, I mean, it's Disney, of course, they wouldn't have done it bad in that aspect.
Exactly.
And yeah, and yeah, for its time, definitely, I imagine some things they did in the movie back then must have been a little more difficult to do than they would be nowadays. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now I
you,
guess we'll
you, you gotta wonder if maybe some people from Lucas Limited actually helped with that. I mean, I know they weren't affiliated necessarily, but they could have been hired. Because I mean, look what they did with Star Wars and stuff. So
Ooh,
of course,
possibly, yeah.
Star Wars was after, but it could have been the same people that end up becoming Lucas Limited. You know, because
Maybe, who knows?
I wouldn't have any way of knowing either, but it definitely looks like something that the people that created Star Wars would have created because they did pretty much the same thing.
Well, the music was done by George Bruns. He was involved in a lot of the music behind a lot of the Disney shorts. We've got, I mean, if you remember Mickey and the Beanstalk, he was
Yep.
behind the music in that. I guess he was in some of the music behind some of the Magoo shorts.
You could tell whenever Herbie was going to do something that same music would come on. It was
Yeah. I liked the music. It wasn't, it enhanced the movie. It was all the music was done right
It
spot.
fit.
You knew what was going to happen with the music, which I liked. I mean, I liked how they did that. It definitely. I mean, you could watch the movie without the music, but with the music, it definitely enhanced it and made it made it a little better. So yeah, it was definitely noticeable, and it was definitely good.
This is kind of cool that he did the music behind the Davy Crockett movies from Disney.
Davy Crockett.
That old Paul Bunyan short film, he did the music behind that.
Paul's got bunions.
He also did the music for 101 Dalmatians.
Yes.
The Absent-Minded Professor, Son of Flubber, The Sword and the Stone.
I don't know if I've seen Son of Flubber. I saw Flubber, but I don't remember seeing Son of Flubber.
You mean Absent-Minded Professor?
And Flubber.
Well, Flubber was way later.
I know that. It was Robin Williams.
And then he also did the Jungle Book, The Horse in the Gray Flannel Suit, all before he did The Love Bug. And after he did those, he was still somewhat prolific. He did the music behind the Aristocats.
Meow.
And Robin Hood.
Meow.
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest. He also did the music behind Herbie Rides Again. So,
which was the fourth movie.
Believe it or not, Herbie Goes Bananas is the fourth movie.
No, Herbie Goes Bananas was the second movie.
Oh.
It's Herbie Goes Bananas. Herbie Goes
Bananas is the second. Herbie Goes Monte Carlo is the third. And Herbie Rides Again is the fourth.
Actually, no.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope, because Herbie Goes Bananas was the last one, which was done in 1980. Then going backwards is Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, which was the third film. Then Herbie Rides Again, which was in 1974, and then it was the Love Bug. That's going backwards. You remember it wrong.
I don't remember it wrong because I saw it last night.
Herbie Rides Again was the second one.
I looked them all up last night.
Monte Carlo was the third one, and Goes Bananas was the fourth.
Well, I just looking on Wikipedia. It says Herbie Rides Again is the first sequel from 1974.
Yep.
Then Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Then Herbie Goes Bananas. At least that's what Wikipedia says. I haven't seen these movies, so I can't really tell.
And I got the 4-pack sitting right here that says it all.
And I've got the 4-pack right here. She's got a different one than I do.
So how come the owner of the movies has them wrong?
They don't have it wrong.
What do you mean they don't have it wrong? Disney has it wrong. I looked at.
They don't have it wrong.
Disney Plus.
IMDb says exactly what.
IMDb is not Disney. I just said Disney Plus. Disney, the owner of the movies, says it's the other way.
Well, that's because you're watching Disney Plus, which is a fucked up platform.
It's an awesome platform. You're just super old, even though you're younger than me. You're fucking ancient and can't get in with streaming because you're afraid.
Wikipedia and being the owners of these movies, we can see the years that they came out. And
yes, they
show
you too.
What the hoot is going on here?
It's done differently on evidently Disney Plus, which I guess I don't have, nor will I ever.
Of course you don't
So-
have because you don't know what's good for you.
Oh, I know what's good for me. It's just I prefer the physical over streaming, because streaming can expire and buffer. So
Oh yeah, because yeah, Disney buffers.
streaming
Yeah,
gets you
Disney
screaming.
buffers. Yeah, okay. Disney buffers.
but
Yeah.
in any case,
Streaming
Okay.
gets you
They
screaming.
have more money than anybody in their streaming site buffers. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't care having money.
And oh my God, a DVD can't possibly wear out. No, that'll never happen. They're fucking made forever.
Since we don't have a smart TV and streaming has to go through the.
So you got a
player.
TV like Dave.
No, I have a nice Vizio TV, but it's not considered a smart TV. So that means if we stream anything, it has to go through the Blu-ray player to the TV, and it tends to buffer.
No, it doesn't. You can just
Yes, it
fucking buy it.
does.
No, you can just buy a fucking streaming thing, a Roku device for $30.
Well, I ain't buying any more shit unless I buy a different TV.
$30.
Yeah, okay, send it to me. I'll go buy one. Otherwise, for now, I'm not buying anything unless I
I'm
get a
fucking
different
poor,
TV.
thank you.
So,
But in any case, so let's see what our favorite scenes are for everyone. Boris, if you could choose a favorite scene, what would it be?
It would probably be when Herbie chased Thorndyke over the fence.
Okay, that's a good one. What about you,
Right.
Krol? Is there a favorite scene or scenes that you
Well,
could
I
take?
already said the scene where he's drunk is just phenomenal. I do have to mention, because we haven't mentioned it at all, was the scene where he drives over the water, like kind of skips over the
yeah.
water, which was pretty funny.
Oh no.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite scene, but it was definitely a great scene that I really enjoyed. But the drunk Herbie scene was just done so phenomenal. I mean, the split car scene was kind of cool, but the drunk Herbie was definitely my favorite scenes. Definitely.
But
Okay.
I have to say another one I liked, right? Like at the very beginning, when all these cars are smashing into each other, that was a real spoodow.
But now,
Spoodow! Yeah.
What about you, Tammy? Is there a favorite scene or scenes that you enjoyed from the film?
It's really so hard because anything that Herbie does, I love. You know, so he just does so much stuff that's funny. But I do like the one where he comes across the water because he kind of like goes boing 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 across the water.
yeah, he's a skipping stone.
Yeah, he's like, that's right. It looks like he's a skipping stone,
Yeah.
But I guess that I have to go with Krol. I really do like that drunk scene. That is just If you could ever imagine a car being drunk,
It would be that, yeah.
As far as favorite,
we never. I bet Christine would have been an angry drunk.
as far as favorite scenes, I'm gonna have to agree with Tammy and Krol on the drunk scene, but I also get somewhat get a kick out of the fact that a car can go and try to jump over a bridge. For some reason that scene just make. I mean, it's sad when you
It is sad that Herbie wants to end his life, and he's so sad. He's so sad that he wants to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, and You know.
Indeed.
Well, yeah.
It was the Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't
Oh,
recognize
and
it
any
since it
time
was
that,
a night shot.
any time that Herbie pees oil on Thorndike or
Yeah, that was great.
crap on it
Uh,
to him. I'm sorry.
I did. Uh, that was good too. And there was another scene that really made me laugh, although it's probably they probably didn't intend it to allude to what it made me think of, and probably not only me, when during the race when Tennessee is holding this sign, it said "come in" or "come on" or something like that. I think it said "come in," and then Herbie blasted this white liquid, and what was it? What Thorndike put it into him. So the sign said "come," and then liquid was splashed over it. Kind of like an innuendo.
I did not pick up on that. I'm definitely a huge pervert, so I'm surprised I didn't see it. But good catch.
I do have to say one other one too. I thought I really do love how he destroyed that Lamborghini. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, that was another Spudo.
That poor
Oh.
Lamborghini.
We forgot about the bear. We forgot about the bear.
Oh, the bear.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was a funny ass part.
When the bear's trying to wake him up because they're about to crash into the trees, which is fucking hilarious. The bear's all like afraid, and then they both jump out of the car and they both go to the bear's like, I don't want nothing to do with it. You're fucking crazy. the bear scene was so hilarious. Like
I mean,
especially with when he was trying to wake him up, he's like shaking him like, wake up, we can hit trees.
well, and we know at one point in time it's got to be someone in a bear suit, but it
obviously
is
I don't think they train bears like
I think
that.
the bear scene is like my favorite scene out of this whole thing.
It's definitely one. I can't believe I forgot it until you mentioned it. Yeah,
I forgot it
it's
too.
definitely a favorite scene as well.
It's your favorite scene, but you forgot it. How is that possible?
Yeah, it wasn't a Herbie scene, so yeah. But yeah, the best non-Herbie scene was that one.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I'm going to remember that bear scene till my dying day, to be honest. Now that I remember it, I had totally forgotten about that.
Yeah,
but,
like how could you forget it if it's your favorite scene?
Well, it dawned on me that it was my favorite scene now that I remembered it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much that goes on in this.
Just kind of forgot about it too until Dave mentioned it.
There's so much that goes on in this movie.
Yeah, I remember watching it going, yeah, I'm going to talk about that on the podcast, and it was so fucking hilarious. And then I forgot until he mentioned it, and it was like, oh yeah, shit, that's right.
You forget how many crash scenes and how many things he goes through, and he drives through this and he drives through that. Yeah. And it's just there's so many.
We kind of ran through the movie a little quick, and we skipped over a lot of it. So yeah, we skipped over a lot of the antics that went on.
Well, there were definitely a lot of little antics that went along with this film. I just wanted to get through the main.
I noticed you were racing. You were racing like you were hurt.
Hey, I can't help it. He's got a mind of his own.
Somebody showering or something?
David, we can't hear you.
Oh yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Well, I hope that everyone has enjoyed our discussion on this particular lovable car named Herbie. And hopefully, if any of you have not seen the film, go out and watch it. It's a fun family film, and it's got some antics that probably, you know, it'll probably give you a laugh, and you can let us know down in the comments whether you thought the film was as enjoyable as we thought it was. And I guess this is another
If you
film
got
that
kids,
we
it's
can all
great to
say
do
that
it.
we relatively enjoyed it. So
Indeed.
If you got kids, they'll want to watch it too, because it's definitely kids love it. Even kids today still love this film. So great film for kids to watch.
Yes.
in any case, everyone say good night.
Me,
Good
me,
night.
Good night, John Boy.
What did you say, Tammy?
me, me.
Meep, meep.
Meep.